Hello and welcome to the Stafford Connect podcast. I'm Tom Cohen. On this episode, we'll look at the performing arts in Stafford County. With the proximity of Stafford to Washington, D.C. and several military bases like Quantico in the area, the arts are often not the first thing people think about. And yet, Stafford is home to a number of impressive arts organizations. On this episode, we'll talk to the directors of a couple of those organizations and learn a little bit about the history and the offerings of each. The Riverside Center for the Performing Arts is a nationally recognized theater and conference center located in South Stafford. Many of us know the Riverside Center for its high-quality musical theater productions and plays, as well as its dinner theater. Patrick Ahern is the CEO and producing artistic director of the Riverside Center. He'll be our first guest on the program. Welcome, Patrick. We're very happy to have you here.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, Tom.
And you are, and the Riverside is really a foundation here. And I want to say icon, but it's basically a major draw to us. So why don't you take a moment and introduce the few people in this area who don't know you and give us a little bit about yourself.
Oh my gosh, that could be the whole show for an hour. As I was just telling you a few minutes ago, I celebrated my 15th anniversary here at Riverside on the 3rd of May. So obviously I like it. Riverside has been in this area for over 26 years now. And it has become an incredible gem for this community, for this region. And we get a good amount of national traffic, too. 7% of our business in 2024 was out of state. So a lot of the talent that we are bringing into Riverside from both locally within the regions of D.C. and Richmond and out of state has grown, and people like coming here to work for us at Riverside. So it has had quite a history. The dream of Rollin Wayman back in 1997. Thank God he had that dream, because the facility that was created was magnificent. It still is magnificent. We continue to grow. We continue to do great musicals. We are now doing plays as well, non-musicals. We are staying relevant. We are doing things that matter. And it's a wonderful, wonderful organization with a wonderful team of people. I am the CEO and the producing artistic director, but there is a team behind me, and I'm not a one-man band. It's not all about Patrick. It's about the team that helps me create the wonderful things that we do there.
Well, I had the pleasure of being there. I think it may have been the 25th anniversary event. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it is true. You spoke about it being a team effort and the team, and then interacting with different people all night. It was obvious that it's not just words. It is something you believe in and something that you carry through. And I think that Absolutely. It shows. It's really.
It's what I hope to create was a family of talent, not just in performance talent, but in scenic design talent and costume design talent, and a great crew, great sound people, great lighting people, and it's the sum of all the parts that has built our reputation at Riverside. And, so many times people will say, well, we don't need to go to Broadway. We can come right here. And that's wonderful that they feel that way. I certainly don't have a Broadway budget to work with, but the talent that we have acquired, that we bring into Riverside, both locally and out of the region, has been really terrific. And it's nice when people will leave after a show and they will come up to me and they'll say, this is the best one yet. And it may not be, but if they're all going out after each show saying it's the best one yet, then I think we're doing something right. And it's because of that team.
Right. Yeah. And you touched on how it started out 26 years ago. And it was it was his dream, and it was a dinner theater. So can you give us any little background about that, or what instigated his thinking of doing it? Or?
What I know of prior to me meeting Ron Wayman, he was an engineer for many years, a gentleman who loved music. His mother was a concert pianist, and I believe he picked up a lot of his musical talents from her. And I think he was the music director in this area for many of the local churches, some of the Baptist churches. And he was a good friend of a guy over in the Maryland area. His name was John Kinnaman. John Kinnaman, I believe, was a producer for WRC, NBC, and started some dinner theaters in the Philadelphia area. And then he had a place over in the Maryland area called the Burnbrae Dinner Theater. And I think Ron had always fancied himself of having something bigger and better than John Kinnaman had. And he used to do dinner theater in the General Washington Inn over on
Yes.
Princess Anne.
Yes.
And matter of fact, a gentleman who is an understudy in our production of Mockingbird, David, I think it's Featherstone, just brought in all this pictures and articles of when they did 1776 before they ever did it at Riverside. They were doing it at the George Washington Inn Troupe was doing it at James Monroe High School, and they were invited to do a condensed performance of 1776 for Henry Kissinger.
Oh, God.
And there was a whole article, and David brought that into me, and I thought, how fascinating. So obviously, Ron had that dream, and he loved the theater, and he got a group of people behind him, and he said, let's do it really big, and we'll build the Riverside. And so they did, and it opened in 1998, and they got off to a very good start. I came by way of Riverside back in 2006. I had some family in the area. My mom and dad, who are deceased, had relocated to this area. I never lived here when they were here, but my mother had told me about this incredible dinner theater that had opened. And of course, I was on tour with the Broadway show Chicago at the time. And I kind of said to my mother, well, what kind of a dinner theater are they going to have in Fredericksburg? And when I was here to settle their estate and take care of business, I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to honor my mom and my father, and I'm going to go over and check this Riverside place out. And that's how I met Ron. And one of his favorite shows of all time was Les Miserables. And I had the great honor of being in the original Broadway production. So he knew who I was, knew my name, and kept asking me, come and do something at Riverside. So I did. I did a production of The Music Man for him back in 2006. And that's how it all started.
Wow.
And here I am. Little did I know back in 2010 that they would be knocking on my door saying, we need you. And I didn't know if I was quite ready to give up performing. And of course, Ron said, you don't have to give up performing. I said, oh, no, you don't understand. You can't come and run a theater and perform at the same time. So here I am 15 years later, and I'm very happy that I made that decision. I love this area. I love what we've built at the theater. And it's a great thing.
Neat. And before we get to the fun stuff about the artistics and the people, shifted to a 501c3.
We did.
And that was a big thing. That took a lot of effort on your part.
A lot of effort. I'll tell you. When I first worked at the facility as a performer, one of the things I kind of recognized was they've got this great space. They've got 24 flies on the stage. You can fly scenery, great sound system, great, the whole shebang. I didn't think they were fully recognizing their potential. And so when they asked me to come in, I said, I'll do that, but will you allow me to take it to the next level? And they were reluctant, but I said, otherwise it's not going to be the place for me. And they did, and they bought into my vision. And what we did back about maybe 7-8 years ago, unfortunately, dinner theater has somewhat of a bad reputation. There are some great ones in this country, but they're few and far between. Most of your dinner theater that was born in the 1970s were for retired people. And there's nothing wrong with retired people. It's a great thing, but it always got a bad rep because it was maybe mediocre theater and mediocre food. And what I wanted to be known as is a great regional theater, professional regional theater. Oh, and by the way, you can have the convenience of having a meal if you'd like it. And that's the direction I've taken the theater. I've always said for 10 years now we got to go to that step where we become a nonprofit. And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, well, most of your great professional regional theaters in this country are nonprofit, because unless you're Wicked or Hamilton or Les Mis or Phantom of the Opera, you're probably not making a whole hell of a lot of money in the theater. And that's why your theaters, like up in D.C., the Arena Stage, the Signature Theater, Shakespeare Theater, those theaters are nonprofit because you need grants. You need the corporate sponsorships, individual sponsorships, donations from your patrons. And I said, if we're going to keep Riverside strong, that's our motto, we've got to go in that direction. And I have been sort of leading this horse to water for quite some time. When the pandemic hit in 2020, I said, guys, will you believe me now? And they bought into it. And so we became a full-fledged 501c3 in January of 2024. It has been great for us. And we can now progress and do things. You don't want to always have to do the tried and trues to get the people in the seats. You want to be able to take a chance every now and then. And this affords us that opportunity and continue to create great things and do dramas like To Kill a Mockingbird that we're doing right now.
Right. And to do that change that you were envisioning, which has really been, I think, important for our area, because there's not really the venues building-wise to do a lot of things.
No.
And so therefore, you could do more on your stage than you could do at other ones, unless you go to a school stage, and that's ridiculous to do that.
I'm glad you brought that up, because it has been my hope, and I have reached out to Stafford County. We've even reached out to Fredericksburg, but so many people have been talking about building a performing arts center downtown. There's no parking. Stafford was talking about it, and I said, guys, we're here already, and if you want to come on board, then what is in our 5-year plan is we want to transform the theater space into just a theater, and put in theater-style seating. All the work is there, all the tiered. And if we convert that space, we now seat 412 in a dinner theater situation where there are tables. But if we pull that out and put in your traditional theater seating, that becomes 900 to 1,000 seats.
Wow.
And that is something that we can produce our shows there. The county could come in and use it for big events. It can be the regional performing arts center for the community and evolve as the space that is really great with great parking.
Right. No, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Because I was involved in on the board, we were talking about the downtown Stafford, whether you'd have a performing arts center and a museum and et cetera.
Yeah.
But you're right, it'd just be duplication. Which was what many people were asking at the time. Why are we duplicating things?
And now that we're getting so much recognition, it's just going to grow. So let us continue to be that. I want people to want to come to our area and go, that's where that great theater is. And so. Yeah.
Well, a lot of them do. And as you were saying, you get a lot of, you can start to see the way you want, either the local talent or the national talent and international, I think, in some of them. That either way you can start with, you could start with the celebrity-ish, and then go to the local, and then you could move into the things you're doing for young people.
Yes. Yeah.
I just gave you a whole half an hour. I'll be back.
It's we want to be dynamic over there, and I'm glad you brought up the young people, because they're the future, and if we don't nurture them properly, then there may not be theater going forward. I mean, the theater itself is going through a huge change. Broadway is going through a huge change. I mean, when I was there back in the 80s and the 90s and early 2000s, Broadway hadn't transformed to that Vegas strip yet. And now Broadway has kind of gone very commercial. A lot of the shows have gone that route too. So you have to ground your younger talent as they're coming up that it's not wherever, every place you go, it's not American Idol or The Voice or so many of our young people think that's the way you become a star. And that's not always the case. You don't set out to become a star. You set out to be the best you can be at what you do. And if it so happens to be that you get that notoriety, great. But you want to be doing it because you love doing it, because you love what you've been taught, what you've learned. And we've had the great fortune to work with so many great young talent in this area. I mean, some of the people that have worked with me at Riverside have gone on to do big things. And I look at the 3 young children in To Kill a Mockingbird right now. People can't believe that they're as good as they are. And one of the things we're going to do over at Riverside, part of our 5-year plan, is we'd like to start a school for the arts there. And so we have the kind of facility that we can not only train them in voice and dance and acting, but we have a scene shop over there that people can learn how to build sets. They can learn how to stage manage. We have a basement that is our wardrobe department. They can learn how to sew. They can learn costume design. There's so much that we can do. And by the way, I was just asked to be on this committee to help name the new school that's being built on Route 17. Yep. And I expressed at the meeting on Tuesday, I said, how great is this that this school that's going to be on 17, they're going to have a focus on the arts in the school. And I said, and you've got us right down the road. What a great venue for them to come and do it practically. You learn at school, you come and work with us. And I think it's a great thing. The arts is so important right now, I think, for everybody. And I look at the production that we're doing right now, To Kill a Mockingbird, what lessons to be learned for our youth and for our adults. And here's a play that was done how many years ago? And it still is somewhat relevant today. And so I like that we're the place that not only do we entertain, but we make people think. And that makes me all warm and fuzzy inside, because it's that's what our goal is.
And I've had a number of students either that I've taught or that I know at the different schools that have gone and been part of the process there. And they just sing your all's praises. I mean, at the event I went, one of them was like, "Oh my gosh, you know us?
Yeah.
You're here." I was like, "Yeah." And then the basement got taken care of, right?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
Yep, that's all. It took some time.
It did.
We're all good now. Yeah.
So now you get a lot of large names of people as well. I mean, which is just really remarkable. I noticed years ago when it started happening, I was like, "Wow, this is very impressive."
Well, it first happened back in 2011. I said to Ron, he was still living at the time, I said, we should do an audience survey and ask them to pick one of the musicals that we do. And he says, forget it. They shouldn't have anything to do about it. We decide. And I said, no, but you got to get you want your community involved, And so he agreed, and we did a survey, and Hello Dolly was the show that came up as everybody's favorite. They wanted to see it. Well, hey, they had already done it maybe 10 years before that. So I said to myself, all right, well, we're going to do Hello Dolly because that's what the audience pick is, but I want to do something special with it. And so I reached out to friends in New York, and I said, we're going to do Hello Dolly. I'd love to have somebody that, people would recognize the name. What are your suggestions? And everybody that I spoke to that I knew said, oh my God, Patrick, Sally Struthers would love you. I said, Sally Struthers? I'm not going to get Sally Struthers. They said, well, we'll put you in touch with, her people. And lo and behold, I went to the board and we figured it all out. And we had Sally Struthers here playing Dolly Levi, and it was a great show back in 2011. Sally loves the area. She loves working at Riverside. She's just done her 9th show with us over the years, and she'll be coming back next year to do something with us. So we've had Sally, and we've had Joyce DeWitt from Three's Company. We had Karen Grassley, who was the mom on Little House on the Prairie, did Driving Miss Daisy. Joyce did on Golden Pond. And we're continually reaching out. The thing that's really kind of neat right now with To Kill a Mockingbird is we've asked a gentleman who's gone on to do great things, who was born and raised in Fredericksburg, Tug Coker. And he's been on television in The Office and How I Met Your Mother and several different things on TV. And he did a play on Broadway that was directed by Thomas Kail. And Thomas Kail is the director of Hamilton. And Tug did a play called Magic Bird, which was a Broadway play about the friendship between Larry Bird, the basketball player, and Magic Johnson, called Magic Bird, and Tug played Larry Bird in that play. So I reached out to him and I said, I think you need to come to Fredericksburg and do something. You know, you're kind of local boy made good, and here we are. He just opened on stage yesterday, so now we can put Tug Coker to our list of names that have been here. But it's. I like to touch all areas, and for me, it's so nice to see people in this area proud of the theater that they've got right in their own backyard. There's so many people that will come to Riverside from out of state, and they will say, oh my God, we would give anything to have a place like this in our, because not everybody has this, and here we are right off of 95. I always think to myself, maybe one of these days we can get VDOT to put a ramp right off 95 into our parking lot. But it's become a wonderful thing and just a great gem for the community. And boy, I hope it's here for another 50 years. It's just it makes me feel great with what we've accomplished.
Well, when I was on the board, my district is the White Oak area and Celebrate, and it's just both ends of the district just love what you're doing and just the diverse shows. Now, when you're picking at the shows for a year, because basically you'll have a season, which is what like what the Met Opera does or other things do. It's like so people know the year.
Right.
It's not like and maybe other places do it, but I'm not going to DC if I can help it. So
yeah.
I
don't blame you. I mean, I love DC, but I know what you're talking about.
Right.
It's that corridor there that you got to get through.
Do you go for? I mean, I know that around the holidays there's certain standards that you don't use. You don't do the same one. It's not like.
Ford's does the
Thank
Christmas
you.
Carol.
I was going to. You do different ones, but there's certain ones that are general that people want to see. But now, do you go for a theme for the year, or is it? What's the process to sort of pick it? I don't see that there's a theme, but I don't know everything in life.
No, I don't necessarily pick a theme. I get together with my associate artistic director, Carson Eubank, who is also our music supervisor, production manager, marketing director, box office manager, and we kind of sit down and brainstorm. I reach out to colleagues and other artistic directors across the country that I know and ask them what's hot, what's not, what should we stay away from, and then we kind of go from there. And it's worked very well, at least for the last 12, 13 years. People like it when we do something that has meaning to it. And so we try to do those things. I want to get to a place, right now we do 6 shows a year. And I'd like 2 of those shows every year to be a non-musical, to be a play. I think there's so many great plays out there, and we've done some of them. And To Kill a Mockingbird has made such an impression on yesterday's audience. We had a theater packed with students today for a student performance, and I wasn't actually in there to watch the show, but they were talking about how behaved and how you could hear a pin drop in that theater, so that it really impacted these students watching the show. So I want to do fun stuff, but I also want to do things that people can go, wow, we didn't realize that, or wow, boy, did that change my mind, or so that's how we go about the process. We always want to see if try to get something that's brand new and hot from Broadway. It's a whole. There's a lot of politics in getting the rights to the shows and your connection to your representative with the licensing companies. And so it's a variety of things. And I always listen to people, in our audiences, they'll come up and they'll say, gosh, why I wish you'd do Damn Yankees. And I say, well, that's a good idea. Maybe we should do something with partner with the Fred Nats and do something baseball-wise with that. I like to find a tie-in. And, I was always taught you got to have a gimmick. So, but just a variety of things. We have picked our season for 2026 already. Unfortunately, I can't say what it is yet because we'll announce that in August. But it's interesting how we get it all done, and then people will go, "What a great season!" The mixture and variety of shows. So. Yeah, that's
Right.
the basic format.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we have To Kill a Mockingbird now, and then later on you'll do one in late August into September-ish.
Well,
right?
we'll have To Kill a Mockingbird. Will run until the end of June.
Okay.
And then
and this will air throughout June, so people get down there.
Yeah. Oh, please do. You will be missing out. The performances are phenomenal, and of course, the story is. It's important. It's poignant, and definitely worth seeing. Then what we're very excited about to do is we are partnering with a lot of mental health organizations in this area. We are doing the Pulitzer Prize-winning musical, and it won the Tony as well, called Next to Normal. Matter of fact, it's kind of timely because the show just was done in London as a revival maybe about 8 months ago, and it was so wonderfully received that they're going to bring it back to Broadway next season for a revival.
Wow.
It's called Next to Normal, and it is the story of a mother and her dealing with issues with bipolar, loss, how medication affects people. And, people might go, oh my gosh, who wants to, how depressing? Oh my God, it's not, it's anything but. It's such an uplifting piece. Yeah, you'll go through some drama there, but the music is more pop rock music. And, we're just really excited about having that that at the theater, and that'll open July 2nd, and that will run into the beginning of August. It's a 6-week run, and then we're going to give everybody what everybody wants. Every now and then, they want the Sound of Music, and so we are going to have the Sound of Music. That will open, I believe it is August 20th. And the Sound of Music will run until November, and then we're going to have the classic Christmas show, White Christmas, will be done. Remember Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye, Rosemary Clooney.
Yep.
And we're Sound of Music. This will be the 4th time in its 26-year history that the Sound of Music has been done, and all 3 previous times. It was Ron Wayman's baby. He directed each one of them. And I used to say to Ron, would you like any help? And he said, no, I don't need any help. I said, okay. So I'm telling audiences they're probably going to see, I'm directing it this time, by the way. They're probably going to see a fresh Sound of Music this time, something that is going to be different. It's going to be the same story, the same music, everything that they're expecting, but we're going to shine it up a little bit, and we're going to have a great cast for that. So we're looking forward to that.
Neat.
Yeah.
And so, and on the one about the Next to Normal, there's been a major push in our area. And if you haven't already I'll reach out to Tara Durant, because she's been very big on mental health issues.
Yeah.
And she did, and a whole bunch of other people didn't. she gives me credit because it was I said she should have a roundtable, but everybody else did all the work, and got a bill passed to have more mental health things and stuff done. So I'll have her reach out on that aspect.
Absolutely, because she's been to the theater.
Yes,
She
she
met.
loves it.
She met with us, Allison and I, and I'll make sure Allison Mayberry knows that, because we've got. We're doing on Thursday nights during the run of the show. There will be a speaker and a talk back after each performance, and we've got. Oh gosh, why am I forgetting?
Because
Antoine Gay is coming.
Because I threw it at you at the last minute. That's why.
But Allison Mayberry, our development director, who is brilliant, by the way, she's just amazing. She has set up a lot of this stuff, and she's done a great job. And having these talkbacks and reaching out to the mental health organization. So,
I'll text her when we're done.
But Tara needs to come and see it. You need to come and see it. Because it's the two leads in the show playing the husband and wife, Adrian Hick and Andrew Foote. They both were last at Riverside in the Bridges of Madison County. That knocked everybody out.
That was amazing.
And so they are playing the two main characters in Next to Normal.
Yeah, they're very impressive.
Yeah, she did Bright Star for us. She's just a phenomenal actor and singer. So I said to the audience at opening yesterday, I said, next show up is a Pulitzer Prize winning musical called Next to Normal, and it didn't get any response. And I said, yeah, I know you probably have not heard of it, but this is what you have to do. You have to not only come to the shows that you go, oh, Grease. You have to come to the shows that you may never have heard of, and you may walk out saying, this is the best show I've ever seen. And so I try to put that out there. I think this will be a show that people are not expecting to be as knocked out as they will be if they see the show.
Oh, good. I'll make a point of that one.
Yep.
Will be. So you're saying you're casting for now. We beyond the bigger, larger names. Use good grammar. So how do you generally? I'm assuming it's a larger process, but if say for example you're doing the White Christmas, when do you start picking people and what do you look for, and know all that process? Because I think that's when people go and they see it gels. It's sort of interesting. They say, how does it get to be that gel? We just had auditions about 4 weeks ago for both Sound of Music and White Christmas, and they were our local auditions. Believe it or not, some people drove from New York to come to the auditions. Wow. Some girl was in from California. Of course, Richmond and D.C. We saw over 261 people in a Monday and a Tuesday. Wow.
Now, that's just those people that came live. Then we put out information to agents and to what is it called? Backstage is a entertainment paper that actors read, and we probably got over 100 video submissions. So we go through all of that, and that process can take 6 weeks. But by the time you go through it, you decide if you want to have some callbacks and see people another time. Check out those video submissions, and once that's complete, then we put the cast together, and then of course your rehearsal process is generally about 4 weeks before the show opens. So you have 4 weeks of rehearsal, including your tech process, and then the show opens.
Wow.
So it's I've been through it now. I think back to when I first started here, but I've probably done it 70 times, and it's just it's something else.
Well, I remember at that gala you were saying, and I forget who. And I'm not going to throw you on the spot and ask you who, but I remember you saying that somebody had sent in a video of it, and you were just blown away by them, and you called them up, and it's that to me was just amazing, and it just shows you the reach of your organization and your team. By the way, I noticed the team part when you're saying that I have all these other people come in and we've talked together about planning this thing. So it's not just often you hear about the team, but it's not really the actual process, but it's obvious that process, and it's natural because it flowed right out of you. Like, I'm calling this person, I call that person.
What I love about theater is the collaboration. I have worked with directors as an actor who it's their way or the highway. And I always say when I'm directing a show, I'm not here to be a dictator. I'm here to be a guide. I cast, see, this is why I get back to casting. The casting process is so important because there are many factors in it. It's not just, oh, well, they have a great voice. Or, wow, they're a great actor. When they walk in the door before they even open their mouths to sing, that's the beginning. A lot of them don't know that. But what you pick up of when they walk into a room, how they treat an accompanist at the piano. So you're looking at a team player. Is the person a team player? And then you're looking at their expertise and what they've done, because when you've got a 4-week rehearsal process, you can't touch every single person in a 20-member cast and give them acting 101 or music 101. You want to hire people that are going to bring something to the plate. And when I'm directing, I will always say to the cast, I want your feedback. I may ask you to walk here, do this, go there, but I always say to them, how do you feel? Is that comfortable for you? And that's why I'm not a dummy. I mean, you want to have a team making a great product so that you can bounce ideas off of them, because I don't know, I was always taught, yeah, you might have all the answers, but maybe somebody's got one more than you don't have. And I'm all about honoring that other opinion. So, yeah, that's
well,
yeah.
and it shows. And it showed at that gala.
Thank you.
What everybody, not just what people said on stage, but what people were saying beforehand.
Yeah,
It just was really impressive. So a couple questions. You can't tell us about next season, so I won't go there. But if you could, first is just the sort of your vision or the team's vision into the future. You said eventually be all theater.
Well, what our discussion is to convert the theater space. And here again, we're not the first to do this. I worked at a theater down in Jupiter, Florida. It was Burt Reynolds' dinner theater.
Right, yep.
That is now called the what is it called? The Maltz Jupiter Theater. It went from the Burt Reynolds to the Jupiter Theater to the Maltz. And they did the same thing. They had a big space like us with tables, and they converted the space into just regular theater. And then across the hall, they had a room that was like a bistro for anybody that wanted to eat. They'd eat over there and go over across the hall. What a lot of people I found that didn't come to Riverside, the reason they weren't coming is they thought that it was an entire package deal, that if you didn't come for the food and you didn't come, that you couldn't go. And I said, no, you can come for the show only. You can go and buy a drink or a glass of wine or whatever you want to have and come and watch the show, and you don't have to be there at 5:30. You know, getting back to retired people have that kind of time to go in at 5:30 and leave at 10:30 at night. But some of us don't have that kind of time. And I don't want people to have the impression that they can't come and see a great show because they can't be there for their salad at 5:30, you know. So, so if we create the theater space, it's not only for just having it be a theater space, but it makes it bigger so that we could bring in some big headliners. We could even, our facility over there could accommodate a small Broadway national tour. We could have famous guest speakers if the county wanted to bring in a great speaker, or the county wanted to have a big celebration in the theater. You know, there's so much that we can do if we do that, and we've got that kind of room to seat people. And it would be wonderful for this area as the area grows to have a performing arts center of that capacity. So the idea is the event center across the hall. The theater was originally designed to have a second floor above the event center, and we're looking at building that second floor, moving all the administration stuff upstairs, and maybe create one rehearsal space upstairs, and then make the event center, the bigger section of that becomes a multidiscipline room where we can have people eat over there and then go across the hall for the show. And then the smaller room, we could maybe make a black box theater where we could do projects that we're not going to sell for 6-7 weeks, but we could do something for 2 or 3 weeks that's edgy or a little darker than most people would like, so that we're continually evolving as a full-fledged performing arts center.
Oh, neat.
Yep.
All right. So now the weird question. I don't even see if it's on here. So, name a piece that or a show that or a play that you would just love to do at some point in your life.
Well, I'm doing it next season.
Oh, okay. So we won't ask the name
my
of it.
my all-time favorite show, Broadway show, that I saw when I was in college, that knocked me out, and I will always think it's the best. We are doing next season. And
Okay.
unfortunately, I can't say what
No,
it is.
that's fine.
But
No.
but God, there's so many things that I want to do. I would. There's a show called Pippin.
Right.
Written by Stephen Schwartz, who wrote Wicked. Matter of fact, some of the music you listen to in Pippin, it sounds like the music in Wicked.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm dying to do over at Riverside is move all the tables off that floor. You know, when you first walk in, there are probably about 40, 50 tables on that floor. I would like to transform the space into the floor being the stage and put some seating. Have people sitting on top of the actual stage,
wow.
looking down this way, and then the other people from the other side. And Pippin is kind of a circus atmosphere. So that's one of my goals, to do something on that floor that is different, and people are like, oh my gosh. We just did Jesus Christ Superstar, and I think if it's not the best that we ever did, in my opinion, it's top 5. It was amazing, and the set was amazing, and people were all going nuts for it. We did a Wizard of Oz that was very immersive, and spirals came down into the floor. So I want to do more of that in the space, because the space can accommodate it. It's so terrific. Show-wise, God, there's so many things that I'm dying to do. We were talking a couple of weeks about doing this musical called Chess, which is the believe it or not, the group ABBA wrote all the music for that, and it's phenomenal. It's not as well known because it didn't have a huge successful Broadway run, but the score and the music are so amazing. And we've been talking about maybe we do that. Who knows? We might turn it into a big hit. Oh God, there's tons of things that I am looking forward to doing.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Well, and with the even now with when you were talking earlier, and it fell out of my head, but the technical things of how much you can do, and I'm forgetting the word, so I'm sorry.
That's all right.
But with the different scenery and stuff that you can do, and that really makes a big difference in what you can do.
It does. It does. That stage, I mean, we built out, back when we did Hello Dolly, I wanted to have what is called a passerelle, but we weren't allowed to have an open area because of the, what do you call it, fire code or whatever.
Yep.
So we filled it in, and we built that kind of semicircle thrust that comes out from the stage into the audience. It opens the way you see everything, the sight lines. And so if you go from the edge of that to the back wall, that's 65 feet to the back wall. That's a lot of depth.
Yeah.
And we used the entire stage for Jesus Christ Superstar. The brick wall that everybody kept saying, oh, how did you do that brick wall and the lighting on it? I said, that's our brick wall. We didn't build that. That's there. It's just that's what lighting can do,
Yes.
So we do have the capacity of doing so much. People will comment when they see a show at Riverside how everything moves, because back in the day you were so used to there'd be a blackout, and then you'd sit there and wait for them, change the scene.
Yes.
Then the lights would come up. I hate that. So because we have that fly space there, and things can go in, go out, it's there's any amount of things that we can achieve over there and do. What's fascinating about To Kill a Mockingbird, the director just chose to use the whole theater. So they make entrances from the back of the house, and they come walking in, and so it gives you the feel that there's a town. You see the porches on the stage, but there's an environment all around. The sound system is great because they can do almost surround sound. So you hear a car coming down the street, it almost sounds like the car's right there. So it's as we have built our stable of equipment and lighting and sound, there's any amounts of things that we can try over there, and that makes us. we can compete with the big boys.
Right.
So yeah, so it's a good thing.
And it is. I mean, we were talking earlier. I went to Wicked, and I was amazed because that was the first Broadway show I actually had seen on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
How small the stage was,
Mm-hmm.
and how intimate the whole theater is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've been to Sarasota. Sarasota has an opera house.
I've I've been to Sarasota, but not.
It's really. We saw, my mom and I would go to see things, and that's even smaller than a Broadway theater.
Yeah.
And you really got the feel for it because of being that close to it. So I understand the idea of it being close, but your stage is far more deeper.
Yeah.
That you can do more with.
No, people.
I was really stunned. With Broadway.
When we did our production of Les Mis back in 2013, we actually had a group fly in from Toronto because they were just big fans of the show, and the word had gotten to them how great our production was. And so many people said, we liked it better here than we did on Broadway. What did you do to it? I said, nothing. Matter of fact, what I did to it was I got permission to do the original staging with the turntable, because in 2013, you couldn't do that anymore because there was a revived version that they did in London that was now the one that was the touring version. And I said, what you're feeling is you're in a more intimate theater of 400 seats, but you're getting practically the same visuals. You're getting your barricade, you're getting your turntable, and you feel like you're more involved. You feel like you're in it, rather than sitting in the third balcony, at the Broadway theater where I did it. You're looking at it through binoculars, and if you don't have binoculars, you're looking at those people on stage, and they look like Minnie and Mickey Mouse up there doing Les Mis. Riverside gives you a stage that can make you feel like you're at a Broadway show, but you're in the intimacy of a less than 500 seat theater, soon to be 1,000. Yeah. So,
well, and it's just remarkable. That's why I thought it would be an interesting podcast to do, is to talk about this, because it is such a gem and so vital to our community. It really is just, Ronald's done a great job starting it. You have moved leaps and bounds.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's just phenomenal. And I know, in talking to the young lady who helped arrange all this,
Allison,
but one of the things, because I'm involved in schools, that was so awesome, was doing the awards for the students, and you're trying to get that started again after COVID. It was been rough.
Well, I brought that to the table when we had there was a foundation, the nonprofit foundation that Ron Wayman started, and I had said, why don't we do an awards, a high school musical theater awards, and you can have people from all the different schools. It's like Tony Awards, only we're honoring the different shows that are done in the area, and we did kick that off. But it's interesting, Tom. We have found that some of the schools are anxious to participate, and some don't participate because they don't believe in competition. And I see where they're coming from, but the bottom line is, if you're going into the theater,
getting the part is competition.
Well, that's all about competition,
right?
You want to be, and it's not. Don't look at it as competition as much as getting yourself to a place where you're the best that you can be, so that you can vie for the part, or you can vie for the best actor, or that's what you want to look at.
Well, and I thought what made it pop up again was I was channel surfing and saw that Fairfax did one, and they had taped it. It wasn't as good as yours.
Thank you.
So, but to me, what was really nice about it is, you had people from different schools. It spotlighted what they did.
Yeah.
To some of the students, in fact, one of the young ladies that did our podcast, Emily Herod, they're doing Hadestown, and she's really big in acting and all, but she's not going to do that after this. So this is going to be her hurrah.
Yeah.
But and that's so true for many people at different ages.
But they may think that, and then because you can't take talent away from anybody. I say to a lot of the younger people that I work with, don't be one note. If you got a great voice, it's a gift. And you want to train it, you want to nurture it, but it doesn't hurt to have something else too. Because, I started out, I was a broadcast journalism major. I went to Syracuse University, and I had no intentions of being in the theater. And boy, did I get sucked into it. But having the education that I had and the background in journalism that I had made me an even more well-rounded actor.
Mm-hmm.
So, don't think of it as, I know a lot of parents will say, well, you got to have something to fall back on, and then it makes the kid think, well, you're doubting that I'm talented. No, don't think of it that way. Just think of it as, the more you can know and the more you can learn, it's not going to make you less of a performer. It's going to make you greater.
And there's so many different outlets for you to do different things.
Oh, yeah.
Even when you get older, and like in New England, there was groups that did Gilbert and Sullivan all the time. Sarasota had community theater, and I was in Brigadoon. And now I found out that Stafford Opera Troupe does stuff, so I'm going to be in Pirates of Penzance.
There you go.
And so even if you'd go on, but for a lot of people, even if it is, their one hurrah, this is why I would do Student Government Day. Because some of these people aren't going to go into government, but they served on the board and they made decisions and they got a plaque. And I'm like, and they love it. I get notes from students saying they love the plaque because it showed that they did something. And so even if with your awards, it's like, you're special. You're wonderful. And
I always
worthwhile.
I always say, when we do the camps or we do any of the things that we do with the young children, the high school kids, that many of you may not even do this. One of you out there could be the next president of the United States. But the tools that you learn when you are doing something that is performance, it brings you out of your shell. It makes you more confident about public speaking and team building and all of the things that go with it. So there's so much to learn from that kind of experience. And so many of the parents will say, oh, God, we can't believe our kid just blossomed, after the camp. And that's what I love about the performing arts is that, some people will go on to do great things on the stage and some people will go on to do great things, either run a big company, become a government official, or even president of the United States.
And from last time I saw, your website's really user-friendly for parents and for students to find where the camps are and different activities. And there's, especially if when you're doing shows in the summer, and this is more geared towards the juniors, rising seniors, rising juniors, to look at things, to do stuff in the summer, because that gives them that window. During the school year, it's a little problematic and tough. And you get the competition from your school. I get that. But there's always these different opportunities you provide for so many people, which is just terrific.
That's what it's all about. Yep.
Well, and you've been terrific in what you're doing, and I appreciate you sharing everything with us today.
That's one of the things I like to do. I love to share anything Riverside, anything I can do for the community. That's
awesome.
That's what our life is about.
Okay. Any final words or thoughts that you'd like to?
Just I want to reach out to anybody that has not been to the Riverside Center for the Performing Arts and let them know that, of course, yes, we want to fill our seats and we want to sell tickets. But more so than that, come and have an experience. Come and see what we do. Everybody that is a first-timer in there finds a way to either see me or see somebody else there to say, we never realized this was right here. And don't wait until it's too late. Come now and see something special, and then I bet any money that you'll be back several times. So we welcome everybody at Riverside.
And you did an excellent job on your selling, but I'll say it this time. So if you are any of those students or parents of students who were reading To Kill a Mockingbird, make sure you go to see it.
Absolutely.
And also to make this plug, They are now a 501c3, so certainly I would encourage you to do what you can to support this massively important entity in our
Thank you,
community.
Tom. Thank you. That's
Um,
appreciated. Yeah,
so-
it's some kind of support to the arts. It'll make you feel good and make you feel proud that what you've. It's a legacy for the community. So
Awesome.
there you have it.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Tom. Pleasure being here.
And we will see you often over at the Riverside
That's
Theater
where you'll
for the
find me.
Performing Arts. Thank you, Patrick, for all that exciting information about the Riverside. We, of course, wish you the best in your future endeavors, wherever it will take you. All right, so our next guest on Stafford Connect is Bonita Keene. Bonita is the co-founder of the Stafford Opera Troupe. She's also the organization's administrative coordinator. The Stafford Opera Troupe is an educational training program designed for high school and collegiate singers. The group sponsors an annual summer opera program that culminates in a public performance of an opera. The group began operation in 2016 and has offered its summer programs since then. Hello, Bonita, and welcome to Stafford Connect. And we're glad to have you here.
It's good to be here.
And so we usually start with have you introduce yourself to the Stafford community, because not everybody knows everybody.
They used to. They used to
That's
know
true.
everybody. I've been living in Stafford my whole life. My parents, grandparents were all from Stafford County. I taught in Stafford County most of my teaching career. I started out in Culpeper, but been here most of the time. I'm very involved still in the schools systems. I do a lot of subbing. Well, I do a little subbing and a lot of piano playing for middle schools and that sort of thing. So staying involved in Stafford County schools.
Awesome. And so we have you on because of the Stafford Opera Troupe. And so can you tell us a little bit about the troupe, how it got started, all that?
Of course. So my daughter, Corinne Fulton, who is a teacher in Stafford County, and her good friend, Bree Nichols at the time, they both went to Mountain View High School, and they were in the choir program there, and they just loved music. Then they both went to college together, and they fell in love with opera. And they were lamenting the lack of opportunities for opera in our area. You have to go to Richmond or D.C. and really kind of be a professional to be able to do that sort of thing. And opera, you don't really get involved in until you're a little bit older. So they were lamenting that. And so they decided if they needed it, they would just create it. So that's how I got started. We started at Mountain View High School. We did a summer workshop, and it was all scenes. It wasn't an actual opera. It was just scenes. And so it was just the three of us at the beginning. And that first year in 2016, we did a scenes workshop, and we picked the music after the kids auditioned. I think we had maybe 11 students that first year, and we just picked scenes for each of their voice types and just things that kind of let them learn a little bit about opera and introduce it. So that's kind of how it all got started. A little dream of two girls that just loved opera and wanted to do more of it.
Oh, wow. And so, and it's blossomed and it's grown to
Yes.
now.
Yes, like I said, we started in 2016, and we did the scenes. And then the next year we thought this went really well. People seemed to really enjoy it. Maybe we could do an opera. So we started with something very small. I think the second year we did Dido and Aeneas, which was originally written for a girls' school. So we knew, like many choral programs, music programs, we have more girls than guys typically. So that's why we chose that. And it went very well. But we felt like the audience didn't really understand a tragedy, or they didn't enjoy a tragedy as much. So we went the following year, we did Cendrillon, which is Cinderella, and that seemed to go over a little bit better. And so that grew a little bit more, and we started to do operas instead of just scenes. So that was really exciting.
Oh, wow. And the website says it's an educational program.
Yes.
So explain a little bit about how that aspect works.
So as I said before, when Corinne and Bree first started doing it, they knew that most people didn't do opera until they were much older, and they had to study opera, get a degree in college, and they wanted to give an opportunity for people to see opera at any age. And so that's where the idea of an educational opportunity came. My daughter fell in love with opera when she was little, like probably 6 or 7, and she used to watch opera videos. And this wasn't that I was pushing it because I was a music teacher. She just fell in love with it. And so that's where that came from. And so we wanted to offer that opportunity for high school kids because, like I said, I had been teaching high school for a long time, and there's lots of fabulous musical theater programs around here, but there's not a lot of classical music opportunities. So that is where that came from. We wanted to give high school students an opportunity to be introduced to opera. I think there's a misconception about opera. A lot of people think opera is old and fuddy-duddy or not interesting or just, people singing really loudly or whatever. And I think I was even one of those when I was in high school. I didn't see my first opera till I was in college. And so that was our idea, to kind of give them an opportunity. It's falling off. To give them an opportunity to be introduced to opera, to see what it's all about, to see it's not this big scary thing, and give them an opportunity to learn about classical music in a safe environment where it's not super competitive and it's accessible for them. And so I think that's what we have done, and I think it's been a really fun opportunity. I know last year we had a lot of students who had never we always have a lot of students who haven't done much opera, but last year in particular, we had a lot of younger students. And I remember one of the young men just saying he was blown away the first time he heard one of our collegiate members sing one of the arias, because he said, I didn't know music could sound like that. I didn't know your voice could do that. And so that kind of thing is really rewarding for me as a teacher, to see their eyes opened about the beautiful world of opera that most of them don't have an opportunity to do in our area.
And so with the educational aspect, we'll deal with that first, I guess. So normally you have an application process, and that usually starts in April-ish, March-ish.
That's been an evolving process, because we realized that people start applying. So let me back up. We have two sort of areas for people to sing. We have the younger students who typically will sing in ensembles. They're not going to sing leads most of the time because their voices just aren't ready to sing some of that higher music, the higher singing. So we have something called Yap Tracker, which is Young Artist Program, which I had never heard of until Bree introduced us to it. Bree is actually an opera singer. She's in Prague now. She and her husband live there and sing opera, and she's doing very well there and very successful there in Prague. So Bree knew a lot about that. So she introduced us to Yap Tracker. And so we have older students who are maybe just finished their bachelor's degree or just finished their master's degree or even their doctorate, and they'll come and sing the lead roles. And so that's an opportunity for them to get some experience when they're still, that's young for an opera singer. And then our younger students have an opportunity to learn about opera from them, as well as to learn the music and to sing in the ensembles and that sort of thing.
Wow. All right. And so if for next year students are interested, they sort of reach out to your website.
You can also find us on Facebook, of course, as Stafford Opera Troupe. And the application process is more simplified for the high school students. They don't have to send in a singing application if they don't want to, because a lot of them are a little apprehensive about that, or they can just send in their district audition or their all-state audition or whatever they just were doing for their school. So it's a little bit more simplified, and we accept them much later. I think this year the cutoff is June 1st. So I got an application last night.
Oh, wow.
For the high school, because it's just the ensemble, and there's a little more flexibility for that.
Right.
But the first year we had applications weren't due until like maybe March, April, and it was too late because the people that were doing Yap Tracker had already accepted positions with other companies. So bumped it back. So that's why I said it's an evolving process. Okay. So we put the auditions as soon as the season is over. It's what we did last year. As soon as the season is over, we'll go ahead and put the applications for collegiate members on the website. And they will start applying in August.
Wow.
For the following year. Because a lot of them travel. I think that's the thing that's just been really amazing to me. Is we have had people from China, we've had people from Canada. We have several people from Canada last year, and somewhere from northern, maybe Ohio. That's not Canada, I know, but yeah. So we had Korea, Italy. Wow. And so they're young people that are just looking for opportunities to sing opera, and they find our program, which is very affordable because some of them cost thousands of dollars. And it's just a great opportunity for them to get to be able to play a lead role that they wouldn't be able to do in a big company.
True.
Right? So that's just been really exciting. So they'll start applying early because they want to figure out what they're doing. They need to make buy plane tickets and all that sort of stuff. So that's just been really exciting. And that's what we learned those first couple of years is we were putting our stuff out too late. And so people were like, sorry, we already accepted programs somewhere else. So that's something we're still learning how, like the timing of. But we'll put that up. We'll open those applications up right after this year's program is over.
And so it's sort of so the young people, the ensembles, I guess, members will come and they'll get trained in different elements of, the singing, the choreography,
Yes.
all that.
So typically what we do is they'll have 3 weeks of rehearsals. Generally, we rehearse in the evenings. We realized that for a lot of our local students, they like to work over the summer. So we moved our rehearsals into the evening so they can still work their jobs during the day. And they just ask for evenings off for that 3 weeks. So they'll come every night to rehearse the music, but we also have master classes and we also have lectures, which I think is super exciting and something that is just, you're not going to get when you do a program at a community theater, because last year we had someone come in and do something on the Laban movement, or I can't remember the exact name. I should have looked it up before it came. But it's about movement on stage and how you decide how you're going to move on stage and that sort of thing. And we've had Dr. Kuykendall from the University of Mary Washington is going to come. He came last year and he's coming this year again to talk about Gilbert and Sullivan, who's the composer of Pirates of Penzance. And he's very knowledgeable, and they wouldn't have an opportunity to hear him probably except for something like Stafford Opera Troupe. We've had workshops on vocal pedagogy. We've had workshops on vocal health, on how to take care of your instrument, as well as things pertaining to the opera itself. So they're learning music, but they're also learning about performing, and sometimes they learn a little bit about the history of opera. So that's where the educational aspect of it, I think, really comes in, is because we have all these workshops and things like that. And then, of course, the master classes are led by several of our faculty as well as guest faculty. As a matter of fact, Bree last year and this year did a virtual master class from Prague. Well, actually, she was in Texas where her family lives now, but they were able to do that. So every student in the program will perform in a master class. So they'll get to sing a song or an excerpt of a song for one of our masterclass leaders, and then they'll have like a little mini lesson. And so that's just a great experience too.
That's phenomenal. So on the website, it says you accept donations.
Of course, we'll take all donations. We only charge, and we've gone up a little bit in the last 2 years, but we only charge $200. And we use that as a registration fee. It helps us cover their private lessons so that we can pay our faculty. When we first started Stafford Opera Troupe, as I said, it was just Corinne and Bree and me, just the three of us. And so it was an act of love. It was a labor of love. And so we didn't have any money. I mean, we were scraping together stuff out of my closet and borrowing things from the theater department at Mountain View to try to get some costumes together because we had no money. And so then after COVID, when we came back, we realized we'd like to offer something a little more. And I wasn't at Mountain View anymore. I'd retired. And so we realized we need to charge a little money. So we charge $200, and that covers that covers paying our faculty, because we've expanded our faculty. And these are professional people who teach private lessons. That's part of their living. And so we didn't feel like it was fair to be like, can you come do it for free for 3 weeks? So that helps to cover the cost of that, as well as a little bit of set, a little bit of costuming, and paying our piano player and things like that. So it doesn't really cover the whole thing. So we are in the process of figuring out better ways to help raise money and make people aware of what we do and what a beneficial opportunity is for young students in our area. So
awesome. So I guess you mentioned one of the operas you've done, and this year you're doing Pirates of Penzance, which is a very well-known and beloved comedy by Gilbert and Sullivan. So what's the process, and what other ones have you done? And then I'll ask you what's sort of the process of selecting what you want to do.
So as I said, the first year we did scenes, which was, we did a variety of just the really famous moments in opera. We did some of those, and it was really fun. And then the next year we did Dido and Aeneas, which was a tragedy. Everybody dies. We have our Stafford Opera Troupe T-shirts, which were donated to the faculty, and on the back it lists like maybe 6 or 7 operas, and it says, Turandot, she dies, and all of them, she dies, all of them. So it was a tragedy. It's sort of like Shakespeare. We did that the second year, and we felt like the audience reception was not quite what we were hoping for. So we thought, well, maybe we'll try a comedy or something more familiar. So the next year we did Cinderella, and that wasn't necessarily a comedy per se, but there were some funny moments in it, and it's a very familiar show. Mm-hmm. And that was a really fun experience, and we had just some really fun visual things. And we were still at Mountain View at that time. And then I guess that's when COVID hit. And so it took us a while to get back on our feet after that. But we did an original opera, which my son wrote, because during COVID, we were like, what are you going to do? And he's a composer. He just finished getting he teaches in Stafford County also. And so we said, what are you going to do? Why don't you write us an opera? And so he did. So we did an original opera after that based on Much Ado About Nothing, Shakespeare's Much Ado, because it's free, public domain text. And that was really fun. And then last year we did Die Fledermaus, which was a hilarious comedy. And the audiences just were rolling. It was really fun to watch everybody laughing and looking at each other and have a good time. And so we did Die Fledermaus last year, and that was really exciting. And then this year, of course, we're doing The Pirates.
So, and is there a certain process? And I asked because our other guest, everybody gets together, they pick something, and then they start going out looking for people to do it. But yours is more ingrained where people are out looking to do something exciting and to build up their resume, which is really awesome for somebody younger to sit there and say, I've done something as opposed to,
It builds, we call it resume building for our older students, and that's a great opportunity. So as I said, because we are growing, it was just whatever Bree and Corinne and I wanted to do at the beginning. What do you think would be good? What do you think the kids would like singing? What would work well with young voices? So then last year, well, I guess before we chose Fledermaus, we just were all, and not all of our faculty live here. Some of them are from out of town, so we do a lot of virtual. So we would get on our little meetings and we would throw ideas around of operas that we thought would work well, and without a huge cast, because that's another thing is we have to recognize we're young and we're new company, so we're not going to have a ton of people in our cast. So we did that, and that's how we threw out some ideas, we talked about it, and then we just kind of came down to a consensus on what we thought would work best. And so that's where we were, and we've tossed around the idea of doing Mozart next year. We haven't decided which one, but we're already talking about next year now, and so that's kind of where we are.
Right. I mean, no Aida for a while.
No Aida. Unless you're going to bring the elephants in.
That's right. So, and I guess, and you said you started doing it at Mountain View. Now you perform at?
Now we're at the University of Mary Washington. So in 2022, I retired from Stafford County Schools, and my husband and I went to Nicaragua and taught for a semester at the Nicaragua Bible Institute, and that was loads of fun. And then when I came back, I started teaching part-time at the University of Mary Washington. I teach class voice and private voice. So that gave us an opportunity, and I said, hey, can we have it here? And so we started, I guess last year was the first year we had rehearsals that first year on campus, but we didn't have a place to perform. So we rehearsed at the University of Mary Washington, and then we performed at Mountain View again. And then this past year was the first year we've done everything on campus, which is nice. And we've gotten a couple of students from University of Mary Washington also, which is lovely. And we perform in Seekebeck, which is, I think it's called Wiley Hall, but it's on Seekebeck, which is one of the newer buildings there. And it's a smaller performance area, but it's perfect for us because it seats like maybe 100, 150 people. And so the audience is packed both nights, and that feels really nice. Whereas if we had gone into Dodd Auditorium, which is a beautiful facility, but it seats a lot more people, you put 150 in there, and I think it wouldn't feel quite as exciting and full. So we've been at Seekebeck last year, and then we'll be there again this year.
Awesome. And sort of that will depict or determine your sets and all that.
Yes, we have to do limited sets because it's not truly a performance venue. I mean, it is a performance venue, but it's new, and we don't want to scratch the floors, and so we're very limited. Last year, we just had a couple of where it gives the illusion of being in like one of the characters gets thrown in jail at the end, and so we had built this thing that looks like a jail cell, but it's just like the front of it, and so he stands behind it, that sort of thing. So you have to be a little creative with that. So I lost my train of thought.
Oh, it was just the location, the set.
Oh, it is a little bit limiting because it's small and there's not a lot of backstage area. So that is a challenge because last year's cast was 21, and I forgot to look before I left today, but we have more than that this year, which is lovely.
Right.
So it's a little bit difficult to fit everybody in, but they've been pretty accommodating and they've got some ideas. We had a meeting earlier where we can like close off one of the entrance areas so people can use it as a little bit of backstage. So that's been a little bit of a challenge. So we have to keep things, there's not the grand set that the opera is known for. I remember the first time I took a group of students to New York City to see La Boheme at the Met, and I just couldn't believe the spectacle of it. It was like overwhelming how much stuff they had on the stage, and just it's crazy. And of course, obviously, our little program can't offer that at this point, but we try to make it exciting, and we had have great costumes and that sort of stuff to give the illusion of a bigger set than we really have. So that's been fun. I think this year we're working on some projection. So we'll have the sea with the ship on it in the background behind the performance, so it looks like they're on the ship. So we're still working out a few of those details between now and then, but that's something that we're working on to make that still give that feeling of a spectacle, even though the space is a little bit small.
And that's sort of what all the, not just operas, but other entities are doing, is doing more of the projections and doing more of that, which is sort of interesting take of technology to bring it into, sort of bring the, as you're saying, the operas into the 21st century.
Right. And you see a lot of that. There's a lot of operas now that they don't look like traditional opera. And that's, like you said, they're bringing in technology or backdrops that are actually projections and that sort of thing. There's still no microphones, though. That's just not acceptable.
Yes.
That's one of the things we work to teach the kids. And I always tell our students when I'm trying to recruit, because sometimes I'll go into the schools and talk a little bit about it and do little workshops with the kids and talk a little bit about Stafford Opera Troupe. And I always tell them, I said, well, opera was the original musical theater. And if you can learn to do opera, everything else is easy after that. So
that is no doubt true. So any other particular challenges to directing or doing things? And
I think for me, because we're growing, I'm still learning. There's still a big learning curve for me. As I said, Bree is the one who has the most experience in singing opera, performing opera. She has a doctorate in opera studies and excuse me. So there's that little bit of a learning curve. So I'm trying to bring in people that know that opera side of it, but also trying to keep track. Because as I said, we have people from all over that are part of our faculty. So trying to do the Google Meets and trying to organize and make sure all of the application information is going into the right Google document and all this other stuff. So that's a little bit of a challenge. And for me, personally, trying to get the word out there and to figure out ways to help us fund our program, because I think what we do is amazing and I think it is unique. I don't think there's really anything else like it in our area. But trying to figure out how to fundraise, that's something that's a big challenge for me. And so I think for me personally, it's just organizing all the pieces and parts, make sure everything happens, and figuring out how to get enough money that we can pay our people what they're worth and to do the things we want to do with the program as it grows.
It's sort of, I agree. I mean, it's when there was a local TV station that David Kerr and I were a part of, and it was a thing of some people are the creative people and some are, you need to be the ones that will get the donations and get the everything else going, because you can't do everything yourself.
Exactly.
But you do need both hands working on that, which is sort of interesting. What do you think is how you're alike with other theater groups in the area, and what makes you different?
I think we're alike in that we offer, I think this short 3-week program is something that I've noticed a lot of other community theaters are doing. They do these summer camps and they'll put on a production in 3 weeks or something like that, 2 weeks, whatever, craziness, a week. And so I think we're alike in that we offer this intensive program for a short period of time. So you can still go on vacation and you can still do other stuff for your summer. It's not like you have to commit the entire summer. And obviously we're teaching about performance. But I think, again, the thing that we have that is unique is it's classical music. It's classical theater. And so I know when I was teaching high school, it was sometimes a challenge for our students who were preparing for district auditions or all-state or whatever, honors choir, is to help them understand what that classical sound, what is it that they're going for, and that, how to support that sound and how to have a bigger sound and all of those things. That's all what we do in Stafford Opera Troupe. That's all we teach them those things. And so I think from that perspective, it's a great way for the students to grow musically because they do need to learn to project without a microphone. They do need to learn how to learn their music, and they all have to learn the music in musical theater also. But I do think that's something that's unique. It's a style of music that is different. And the opera is typically big, sort of like commedia dell'arte in theater, if you're familiar with that, where everything is like really big and exaggerated. I think opera is a little bit like that. And so the students are learning to like step way out of their comfort zone to do something totally different, which I think a lot of these kids obviously love to perform. That's why they're there. So that gives them tools in their toolbox when they go back to audition for other community theaters or other shows they want to do that a lot of their friends aren't going to have. That ability to project and that confidence of learning to sing something like an opera or something like that. I think that that's something that we do that's very unique.
And it's sort of, I've been in some stuff, and I went to Broadway with the choral groups last year. But
It was a fun time.
it was very nice. I'm going again next week. But even though they have mics, you could tell the ones that I've had serious training and whatnot. And the whole movement and et cetera it's a skill that you need to learn. And I agree. I don't think it's a natural thing or something that schools have the availability to do.
Yes. And as I said, I was a teacher also, and I think we have really strong choral programs in all of our schools in Stafford County. And that's not always been the case. And I think that's wonderful. The students have so many amazing opportunities in our area to sing well and to sing excellent choral music and to learn about their instrument. But learning, and I'm a chorus teacher, so I love choral music, but learning to sing in a choir is not the same thing as singing alone or singing in an opera ensemble. It's a very different style. And the opera, you might have 3 altos, and you got to really be prepared to give nice full sound to an opera that you might not be prepared to do or might not have an opportunity to do in your school choir program. So I think it complements it very well. And so I think that's something that we do that's very unique.
And I think it's sort of an interesting dichotomy because so often in a chorus you can mouth while everybody else is singing. You can't really do that in other venues,
right?
But I agree with you. I've seen Barbara Perry does just phenomenal things with her choral students and movement and et cetera, and the songs and Chris Ryder, who was at Brook Point when I was there, was just another one that just really does great work. So we are blessed in Stafford with this. I'm forgetting the name of the gentleman at Stafford, but he also does terrific work. So we are fortunate, but it's different.
It is different. And teaching choral music is different than teaching opera. I mean, I say that because when I first started this, opera was not my first love. Sorry, Bree. But I learned to appreciate it and to love it. I remember my first opera I attended was in college, and I didn't want to go. We were required to go as music majors. And I thought, I'm not going to like this. And I thought I was so wrong. And I think it's a little bit like Shakespeare. A lot of people that don't like Shakespeare when they read it in their English classes is because it's not meant to be read. It's meant to be performed. I think opera is very similar. It's not meant to be listened to in a little I was going to say cassette tape. Nobody uses cassette tapes anymore. But it's not in a small, speaker system or whatever. It's meant to be seen and heard and live. And I think that
And
is
envelop you.
Yes, and I think that's why we are so excited to offer that in our area. And we have been so blessed with some of the most amazing vocalists that have come in. And sometimes we sit and think, why are they coming to our little program? But it's also been really fun to show them our city and our town and our, show them Stafford County. We had a group last year of our collegiate members that stayed at a B&B in Stafford. And so that was just really fun for them to experience our traffic and all sorts of things like that.
I've just had an idea to try to tie you all into different other things the county does.
Oh,
Since
good.
I have, been around.
Yes.
Yes. So I don't want to forget it. So what was the first opera?
The first
that you
opera
saw?
ever?
That
The first
you
one
saw,
I saw.
yeah.
It was, give me a minute.
Okay.
Is it
Uh-oh.
Memphis? Now you put me on the spot and I can't think of it.
Oh.
All I can think is
Faust?
Figaro, but it was not. Yes.
Faust.
Mhm.
Gudos?
Yes.
Yes. We had, my mom and I went to one. Sarasota has an opera company.
Mhm.
I was telling Patrick Ahern this. And it's a very small venue. And it was just amazing and we saw Faust. And it was just amazing to see it. My mother had lived in New York City growing up. And so she had seen the Met frequently. And so we listened to the Met every Saturday, or at least
Wow.
the certain operas we didn't, but most of them we did. So my first was Don Giovanni, which is still my
wow.
favorite.
Mhm.
The idea
Sticks
of
with you.
yes, and then going to hell at the end is pretty nice.
It's pretty amazing.
Um,
My kids started out watching The Marriage of Figaro,
mhm.
and it was in Swedish.
Sheesh.
Some people said, why are your kids love this movie? I said, I don't know. I think my son liked it because there was a dragon in it. It's a big, somebody in a costume.
Oh, Magic Flute. Yep.
Oh, yeah. Magic
Yep.
Flute. So anyway, that those things stick with you. The Kennedy Center used to do, they would have a program where you could bring your students to the Kennedy Center to see dress rehearsal, and they would only do like a part of the opera because they figured it was too long. And then the kids could go backstage, and they would have a docent come to your school and bring like props and say, this amazing thing you saw on the stage actually looks like this up close. And it was a really great program, and I don't think they do it anymore. And so that was something I used to do with my middle school students, but then they didn't have it for high school,
Huh.
which is always really bizarre to me.
Interesting. Yeah.
But I remember we saw Rigoletto there also. I think I fell in love with classical music was actually not at an opera. It was the movie Amadeus when it came out in
yes.
theaters in the
Yes.
80s. Yeah.
Yep. That was just on recently. Yes.
Yeah.
So what do you see as the future on the horizon as you're planning for?
I, of course, would like to see it grow. I think it's important for us to continue to build our faculty because we want to offer an educational program, and I think that's important. We have people who are passionate about it as well. I know last year we had a string quartet that played, because Schubert is known for his strings music, and so we did a string quartet who played the overture, and they played at intermission, and then they played like a half an hour before the program opened. And I would love for us to be able to do more of that. I would love to be able to do a full orchestra one day, because that just feels like that's what opera needs instead of just piano, which we're very grateful to have incredible pianists that have played with us over the years. So I'm not belittling that, but to have an orchestra, that would just be really great for us to be able to do something like that. And so to continue to grow be able to do a bigger cast, but where we are right now, we just don't have the faculty to support it. Because I know last year, what we do is we offer each student gets a minimum of 2, usually 3 private coachings with one of our faculty, which is huge. And so we just right now don't have enough faculty to have too many students in the program, or we just wouldn't be able to fit it all in. Or the master classes. We started out, I think the first year we did 1 master class, and now we have 4, so that all the students get to perform. So as we expand that I would love to see us to be able to offer more of that and to bring in more local students as well. We don't have quite as many out of town students, but we've even had high schoolers that come in and stay in a hotel for a week to come sing opera because they don't have it where they're from. Yeah, so I would love for us to be able to expand our faculty so that we can offer it to more students, because I do like that we are an educational program. Now, whether it maybe if it grows and one day becomes like a professional program, I don't know. But for me, I love the educational aspect of it, obviously, because I'm a teacher. And so I really enjoy seeing the kids' attitudes about opera change as they get exposed to more of it. So that's just been really fun.
That's awesome. So what would you say is the role of the troupe in our community?
I think, as I said before, there isn't a lot of classical music opportunities for young people to be a part of. So I think that that's nice. We also have started doing community concerts during that time. So the kids, not always the kids, usually we try to get just because for the sake of time, we can't let every single person perform, but some of our collegiate students will do community concerts. So last year we did 2, and we'll be doing 2 again this year. We did one at Seekebeck and just invited the community, and then the second one we did at Jubilation. And so this year we're going to do one at Jubilation again, and then I think we're doing one at the Universal, I can't remember the name of it, the Universal Unitarian Church.
Oh, okay.
Fellowship,
Right.
I think that's what it's called. So we'll be doing something at their facility as well. And so just getting out into the community, and so it's not just we're in our little opera bubble and we just perform and then we do our performances at the end. We get out in the community. We also invite the community to come watch our master classes. We invite all of the teachers to come to our seminars and master classes as well. I have learned so much over the years from watching all these other teachers and educators, and many of the younger professionals that started working with us were like getting their doctorate in, like I remember one particular young man was getting his doctorate in speech pathology. So he did this whole class on how to preserve your instrument, what to do if you get a sore throat, what happens if you have vocal fatigue. And I have used that information that I would have had to pay a lot of money and time and energy and effort to go take a class somewhere. And yet we offer it for free for our local teachers. And so I think that's a great way that we reach out to the community.
Oh, wow. Awesome. So if people want to get tickets, since there's only limited 300 seats total, how do they get the tickets?
So
I'm not saying because I have students already nagging me.
Okay. So last year we just did tickets at the door.
Okay.
But we have a friend who does community theater who has a little bit more experience with theater tickets. And they were telling us about a website where you can do Find My Seat or something like that. So I probably should get on that so that we can start getting those tickets out there. But we'll probably do that online. That's what we did last year, and it's donation only. We recommend $10. And so that's what we did last year. We accepted cash, credit card, PayPal, Venmo, all of the above. And so we had all that stuff set up with little QR codes there. But I think this year we're going to try to sell tickets online.
Okay. And the dates?
July 12th. Now see?
Yeah, 11 and 12.
11 and 12, thank you.
Sorry.
because
Not that it's in my phone
you
already.
are going to be singing
Yeah,
the role
wow.
of the sergeant with us. Yeah, I'm so excited.
I am too, and my students are all excited too. So yeah,
That's
I
great.
have former students who are like, I'm going to be at Duke. I'm like, well, I don't know how you get to see it.
Now, we
but-
did do a Facebook live stream last year,
Oh wow, okay.
So, yeah.
Oh, all right.
and that we were able to set that up because Seekebeck is really great for that. It's you can perform there, but it's also a lecture hall, and so they have it's a beautiful stage, and then they have the seats are in like an amphitheater style, and so and all the way in the back there's like a flat area in the back where they have some things set up, technology, you can video and that sort of thing. So that worked out great. That's where we're hoping to be able to put our projector, do our projections from there, and then have something set up back there to do a live stream. That's what we did last year, and it seemed to work pretty well.
I'm trying to. We had for student teachers. We had a meeting in there. There were 2 I'll say amphitheaters, 2 different locations. So I'm trying to picture which one's which. But that's one has seats and one has benches. I guess that's
This
the
one
two.
has seats.
Okay, so that
I think there's another one just on the other side of Pollard. That's
Okay.
fairly new also, and I think that's audio visual. Like it's more.
Okay.
I think their space is smaller, and there's
All
no
right.
backstage at all there.
Probably not.
Yeah.
All right. And so as sort of we wrap up, as a way to closing out, is there anything else about the Stafford Opera Troupe with an E? Just
Yes, Troupe.
for the people who are listening
Yes,
to us.
yes.
That you'd like to share that we haven't discussed yet?
I think one of the things we've done in the past that I would like for us to do again is we raised a little extra money, even though we didn't have a lot of money. The kids all chipped in, and we bought a violin for a student in Central America, and then another year we bought reeds for a friend of ours who teaches in Central America, teaches music. So I think being able to do some of that, incorporating that into what Stafford Opera Troupe does is kind of exciting because it's easy to get inward focused and because we need money, of course, to do what we do, but then to make the kids think about how being a part of something like this is more than just about, it's not all about you, like to share back with the community or whatever. I thought
that's awesome.
I think that was really a cool thing that we did, and we've done that in the past before. And I also think it's just exciting to have people from all over come together to do this. As I said, we had a young lady from China last year. We picked her up at the airport, and she was getting her doctorate at Indiana University, and we had to write a special letter saying this is why she can come back into the country is because she's doing this with us. And I think that's just a neat and exciting thing for our students to be able to be a part of, and for everybody to come together. It's the great unifier, music, right? And so I think that's just been really exciting to watch and to see the kids, especially maybe our younger students who. Kids travel a lot more than they did when I was in high school, but still for them to be a part of that and to be able to sing and to rehearse and to have meals with and hang out with people from all these different places and different levels. We do a Q&A one of the nights, and we have all of the collegiate students. It's like a round table sort of thing, and they sit there and the kids can ask them questions, and a lot of them say, how did you get into opera, and do you ever do anything other than opera, and how all that sort of thing. So I think just a really unique experience for that Stafford Opera Troupe offers for our students.
That's awesome. It's a great resource, and I'll be honest, I didn't know about it until we talked at an event where I was standing in or sitting in from Miss Perry, and so I was really excited over the aspect of it because it was part of my growing up and made me.
Yeah, we started in 2016, but we had a big break during COVID because even when people started going back, you may remember the limitations for singing were more stringent than anything else. Singing and playing instruments, wind instruments, was more stringent than anything else. And even though people were starting to go back, singing was not. And so of course we had to have a venue to do it. And so it took us a longer to get back. And so this is really our second year back. So it's just exciting. And so my hope is as kind of the momentum picks up that we can get what we do out there a little bit more and the word out a little bit more.
Right. And that's the beauty of doing these podcasts like this, is that we can
great.
spread the word and make people aware of everything you're doing, which is just really awesome. So finally, I'd like to ask people if they have anything special about Stafford that they want to share with our viewers and listeners that makes it sort of special to them.
Well, as I said earlier, I'm from Stafford, and so my sister was doing a little family research. And when we say from Stafford, we mean from Stafford. We have, I think she researched our 6th great-grandfather was in Stafford County in 1692. And so for people that live around here, if you see Eustis Road or Heflin or any of those names, that's my family, and we've been here forever. And so I've really seen, I always tell people I feel like I moved, but I haven't, because Stafford is not the rural farming area that I grew up in when I was young. But people will ask me, do you ever want to move? This is where I've always been, and I love it here. So I think that's just unique, because I think we used to always see people we knew when we went out and about. And you don't see that as much anymore. So for those other Stafford people that are here, there's a few of us still remaining, holding strong.
Well, and as a teacher, you no doubt get the oh my gosh, it's you. Yep. You look the same. And I'm like, really?
And I taught, Mountain View High School was built literally across the road from where I grew up.
Oh, wow.
And the Armstrong Farm, which is what they which what it was when they built Mountain View, I used to take him his newspaper when I was a little girl because he was an older man at that time. And so that's just been kind of fun because I literally used to go for my lunch break. I would walk over walk across Mountain View Road and go over and have lunch with my mom and come back. So that was just kind of fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and I really appreciate what you're doing, and I'm as I said, I'm really looking forward to this. And so it's July 11th and 12th in the city at the Mary Wash.
7:00 at Seekobeck.
And you'll want to make sure you get a ticket because it'll probably sell out quickly.
It's quite full last year, so
yeah.
we're looking forward to it.
And Pirates is a terrific story.
Yes, great show.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you. Thank you again, Bonita, for that interesting story and all the information about the opera troupe. We wish you and the Stafford Opera Troupe much success in your future. And before we close out this episode, we'd like to mention that Stafford area is also home to the Fredericksburg Symphony Orchestra. The symphony is a 75-piece orchestra led by Maestro Kevin Bartram. The orchestra will offer 5 concerts this season. You can find out more about them on their website. And it looks like that ought to do it for this edition of Stafford Connect. Before we go, I want to thank you for joining us on this episode. We do appreciate you and hope you'll refer us to your friends. And we hope to see you at our next episode in July, where we continue the conversation about important events and issues in Stafford. Until then, I'm Tom Cohen, and you're listening to the Stafford Connect podcast. Stafford Connect is a Rivers Edge Media original podcast. You can listen to the show anywhere you get your podcast or catch us on video on the YouTube channel. Stafford Connect, the conversation begins here.